All right.
This is my ultimate pleasure to introduce Dr. Warren McDonald. He will be teaching the strategic planning tonight. And Dr. McDonald has been around for quite some time. He's a national speaker and national and international. He's also an educator as well. I'm very proud to have him as my friend. I've known him for many years. He has spoken Washington State more times than I can count, and one of the best educators that is in the Speaker Bureau. At this point, Dr. McDonald, I am going to turn this meeting over to you, and I will mute so that way we have no back sound whatsoever, and we can just focus on you, sir.
Donna, thank you so much. Eric is here, it looks like. Eric, how are you?
Yep, Eric is great. Good to see you, Eric.
I'm going to share the screen here, and we're going to start to rock and roll. Is that okay with everybody? Donna, it's a pleasure to be with you. Thank you all for having me.
Thank you, sir.
Can everyone see the screen? Okay, so we're gonna rock and roll here. When Donna introduced it, she called it strategic planning. I've got a different take on that. That's effectively what it is. But I like to use the term, and I use it in my textbook that you'll see in a little while. Strategic planning and management. Now, why do I add management to that? Because in the past, when healthcare organizations, large businesses, when they started doing planning, they had a committee or an individual to go do it. And he wrote this wonderful plan, and he sent it out to the worker bees, and they're supposed to get excited and go implement it. Now, how do you think that worked out? Well, since we're muted, Wes knows it didn't work out very well. Because, and listen, think about the millennials that we work with today. They want to, and some of us old codgers think, oh, those dadgum millennials. Let me tell you what they want. They want to have a voice in what they do, and they want to feel like they're making a difference. How awful could that be? I'm proud of them. I teach them all the time, and I love very much. Let's get on into the meat of the program. When we talk about management from the contemporary, we got to think outside the box. There's three kinds of people in the world. I want you to think about this for a minute. Three kinds. There are those that let things happen. There are those that wonder what happened. And there are those that I hope some of y'all are going to make things happen. Now, in the past, opticians have kind of wondered what happened and kind of let things happen. I had just about given up. But when I went to Asheville, North Carolina, and I met Kim, and I don't know where Sarah is tonight. I met some of the folks there, Jane Summers and my buddy Wes. I went home and I decided it's time for me to get back out and do a little work. So let's get into it. Contemporary management requires that we think outside the box, something different. How do we do it different, better? We got to think of continuous quality improvement, recognizing the need to review what we do professionally all the time. And there's a resistance to change. It's a disease that we can't afford any longer. And I want you to rate, if you're going to make a note, Kim, write this down. Remember the P's. Proper planning prevents poor performance. Now, I'm going to send you these slides, but let me tell you where that came from. There was a young man named James Jerome McCarthy in 1960. He was a professor at Harvard and Notre Dame, among others. And he started this as a marketing thing. His P's began place, price, and promotion. A lot of people have taken off on that. James Baker, 10th White House Chief of Staff, Secretary of the Treasury under President George H.W. Bush, he came up with the proper planning prevents poor performance. I believe that's important. I really do believe that's important. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Now there's a changing paradigm. What is a paradigm? Does anyone know? It's an old term, but I'm an old guy. A paradigm is a typical example of pattern of things that individuals or organizations do. So when I came out of Durham Tech, the opticianry school in 1973, and yes, Wes, they did have television. We did not have computers as we know them today. We were all, our goal was to hang a shingle. We all wanted to be independent. I mean, there were no chains. No corporate people were involved at all. When they started coming in, the North Carolina Opticians Association wouldn't have let them alone. They were the enemy. Now the whole world's changed. We're moving from independent professional to what? Where are we most likely to serve in the future? That's a question. All these. What roles are we going to fill? What training and education do we need to be able to do that? And who's going to define us? Us or someone else? Right now, the corporate providers and others. I'm really not shaking my head. Is that camera moving around? Are defining us. At present, do you know of anyone outside this group that potentially is collaboratively working to see what a new future might look like for us? That's where I'm headed with this thing. You guys are current leaders, future leaders, organizing leaders. You guys are the future. It's really important. Some years ago, I did some research. I did 2 national studies. I got no support from OAA was broke. They didn't even have this was before Kurt Duff came in as president. They didn't even have a website up and running or a database. It was all paper. So I went to the National Academy, and Floyd Holmgren was relatively new, and I begged, borrowed, and stole, and I got all of his database, and I sent it out hard copy to all kind of folks. I got about a 25% return on an 8-page survey. And I looked at what opticians were doing now and what they wanted to do down the road. And I asked what new roles that you thought you would have an interest in, and these are the consensus. The low vision thing was interesting to me because I have an interest in it. I have a number of former refraction students. When I taught refraction, I developed the first course in the country in an academic institution at Interboro Institute, and they wanted an optician to do it. So they reached out to me. I finished Dr. Whitney's course, and I went in. Many of my guys that took that course now work for the Lighthouse. Does anyone know what the Lighthouse is? Eleanor Fay.
You talking about the Lighthouse for the Blind?
That's right. Eleanor Fay, Dr. Fay was an ophthalmologist and very, very prominent. I have 2 copies of her book signed. And I've got a half a dozen of those students who still work at the Lighthouse every single day working with low vision patients. In my national study, the only people that really made any more than the average guy was someone who had low vision. Everybody, 75% of the population of the survey wanted to learn to do refraction. Contact lenses, 65% wanted to do more contact lenses. Now that's not really new, but I have in my copy or in my desk a copy of Kevin Toohey's signed by him original patent for the contact lens. And no, Wes, before you ask, I was not there. It was given to me by the Obrig people when I was teaching in New York City. And I pride myself on that. He invented the corneal contact lenses we know it today. He was an optician and worked at Obrig Laboratories. Another thing that people saw that we needed to do was management, administration. Many of the chain operations can't hire opticians to manage. Why?
Because they don't know how to manage.
Well, they require certain credentials. They got to have at least a baccalaureate degree. Most of our guys don't. But there are ways to move forward and do those things. Those are what my research on two and a half. I did one online, didn't get quite the response the third time. Consistently, those are the things that they thought we should be doing. Before we do anything in any organization, we have to develop an approach, a plan. We call it a strategic plan, and it's got to be effectively done. The first part of that is we have to determine the organizational mission. Now, what is that? The mission, if you look at any organization, the mission statement states who we are, what we do, how and where we do it. It's about what we do today. We also have to have a vision. What are we going to be in the future? Now think about that for a minute from an opticianry perspective. Do we have a mission that's consistent? If you're an optician in Alaska and Florida, are they the same? No. You know the answer. Do we have a common vision? No. Both of those, if we can somehow bring everyone together and do those, determine what our mission is, determine what the vision collectively is going to be about. Then we've got to set up goals. What is a SMART goal? Bottom bullet point. SMART goals are specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. I always tell the story about a good friend of mine who passed recently. He was from Hungary, and he was my Sapelo rep for years, and he was a great guy. And he'd sell and sell and sell. He was really active. And every time he'd come in for a new year, they'd double his quota. Well, it got to be where the guy was working all the time, and his goals, I mean, they gave him a specific goal, and it was measurable, but it wasn't achievable. Now, he quit and went to work for someone else. Sapelo hurt for that. But you got to make goals measurable and achievable. And they got to be realistic, that relates to that. And they got to be time bound. So when we're developing a plan, and you're developing a plan, Kim, for your state, Wendy, for your state, you have to have a plan, and you got to know who you are, what you are, where you're going. You got to have goals to support you to do those things. Now, I separate those into a short and long term. Goals are the overarching where we want to be. Objectives are short-term goals, if you will, to help us achieve our longer overarching goals. Questions on that? We're going to look at some specific tools this afternoon or this evening now to figure out how to do that. Who knows what SWOT analysis is? Wes, what does it stand for?
Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
Absolutely. Every organization on the planet, every major business conducts SWOT analysis. A lot of them don't do it the right way, as you're going to find out in a minute. Pest analysis. Political, economic, social, technological issues that relate to where you're going. Benchmarking. Kim, you and Wendy and Eric. Eric's got a really existing organization. Donna does too. You know where you are and where you're headed, and if you're growing or not. what I suggest to everyone is benchmarking. We need to know who the best in the breed is and study why they're the best in the breed and model their behavior. That makes sense? Questions? Let's look specifically. 2016, I wrote a textbook. We're in the second edition now, and the publisher wants a third. And I did it for Health Admin Press. Hospitals, public health departments, all kinds of people use this to do their strategic planning. Now, if you've been to school lately, you understand how much a textbook costs in classroom. Anybody have kids in school? Yeah, absolutely. How much was that one, Vince? $250?
I'm not for sure, but I think it was probably about 130, 140.
Oh, no. I have one that I've used for years in the healthcare management world, written by a man named Bo Longesk at George Washington. Bo just passed. When I started using his textbook 20 years ago, it was $250. And I thought that was a lot. Well, the latest edition came out right before he died. It's $450. Well, I've got students paying 60 grand a year to go to school with me, and I'm on the warpath. So when they came to me several years ago about doing this textbook, I'll do it. I'm gonna do it spiral bound, paperback. I don't want leather bound. $40 or less. Well, we're not going to make any money, and you're not either. It's not about that. I'm going to do it because academics have to do what we call scholarship, and this worked for me, and it was something we applied pretty well. How much is it, Wes?
I got it for $109.
Okay, good job. That's the new one.
Yep, that's edition 4. Just came out. I got the first
Just
press run on it.
got it on my desk. Okay. Brooks just sent it to me. So let's talk about SWOT for a minute. SWOT, we're looking at our external strengths and weaknesses, and then we're looking at our external opportunities and threats. Now, let me pare that down a little bit. How well do you think we know our own strengths and weaknesses? What do you think, Eric? We like to think we do, don't we?
In theory, but I mean, it depends on the person.
Yep, absolutely. So you never know how you look till you get your picture took. What they told me when I first got involved in politics. I went on stage one night and I had, well, I had gone to the men's room right before, and my campaign guy said, "You need to come back, zip up." I would have been on statewide television with my fly hanging open had I not been smart. You like to think you're squared away. I've never run across many opticians that didn't feel like they do a pretty good job. I agree. So we got to measure our strengths and weaknesses from an objective standpoint. All right. So you can look at a number of ways to do that. How do you think, Donna? How do you think you would measure in an optical office what your strengths might be?
In my office, I think my strengths are based on how strong my staff is, how productive they are, how much we sell. I can generally measure it that way.
But individually,
on each one of them, they each have different strengths and can do different things. I mean, it's on their production.
Bingo. It's exactly what I was hoping to say. We all have different strengths and weaknesses, but we got to objectify it and figure it out, right? And then we have opportunities. Let's look at both of those for a moment. When you're doing a SWOT analysis, You use a 4 blocker like in the previous slide. Now the blocks are usually a little larger, but I didn't have room in this slide to put them on. So you list about 10 strengths, 10 weaknesses, and you look at 10 opportunities and 10 threats, or more, not many more. And then you want to put these things in and develop strategies from them. A lot of people, when they think of SWOT analysis, the only thing they think about is that 4 blocker. Going to do it. Well, let's pick the one that was the most popular out. Put it down. There are in the book we have 2 different types of matrices. The most popular being the TOES matrix. They give us specific strategy. We combine and we rank as a team, not as an individual, but as a team. We rank the strengths, the weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And we put them over the internal factor and external factor evaluations, and we put them in and develop specific strategies to help us get ahead, or broad strategies, depending on what direction we're going. Now, Kim, you're brand new. Broad strategies would be the best for you. It's going to be hard for you to come up with very specific strategies at this point. Does that make sense? Wendy, are you hanging in down there? All right. Same for you. Now look, healthcare. Are we healthcare? Are we? Think about it. 80%.
Opinions vary.
Hell yes, we are.
Yep. Everybody has a different opinion. Everybody, it's like rear ends. Some are bigger than others.
I feel we're all healthcare workers.
Here's the deal. We have concerns that the average guy in the grocery department, if we work at Walmart, we got concerns that they don't have. Patient well-being, third party, HIPAA. Now, some people don't understand HIPAA. Oh, I hate that stuff. Well, HIPAA is not a bad idea if it's done right. Some people are afraid that they can't transfer prescriptions to the lab. That's not the case. Pest. You know, when we look at things like how we're moving, I liken back to the event in Asheville. And everyone was really upset about Warby Parker being placed on the podium to speak. Am I being fair there? I believe they are. I believe that was the case. There were a lot of people upset. A lot of people thought, well, we need to let them do it. Look,
That's a fair assessment. I wouldn't say everybody because there's no everybody, but yeah, there were a number of people who had some strong feelings.
here's where I'm going with that example because I thought it might strike home. We have to understand where we are in the marketplace. They're political, economic, social, and technical. When Warby Parker first came out, what did they state they were right to begin with? One word. They were a disruptor. What does that term mean, disruptor?
Like typically it's a technological disruptor. They come in and they change the entire market.
I have a friend, his name is Boris Zukar. Very Russian. He was a young doctoral student at what we refer to at Chapel Hill as Cal College in Raleigh, North Carolina State. I needed an econ professor to teach at the university in my MBA program. And I made some calls, and they had this bright young man. He came in and just, boy, he just was something special. But he kept telling me how stupid my students were. And those who know me know that didn't go over very well. And I finally took him aside and I said, one more time, you're out the door. These aren't NC State students. You're a doctoral student teaching grad students. Could it be you don't know how to teach? He is my friend to this very day. Calls me his mentor. Well, I chewed him out pretty good, but the guy's gone out now and opened a company called LetYouKnow.com. Now he doesn't, you can go to what's the buy a car in a can thing? What's the name of that outfit? Buy it off a vending machine. You know what I'm talking.
Is it Carvana?
Carvana, there you go. Thank you. Well, look, he did not do that. He's gone out to dealers across the country. And when he came to me, he told me what he was going to do. I said, I think you're out of your mind. Well, he's gone out now and opened LetYouKnow.com. And they've got thousands of dealers all over the country. They put their inventory on his website, and customers can go on and bid that here's the price I'm willing to pay for that car, take it or leave it. And the boy's making more money than you count. He's got thousands. And I never thought anybody would do that, but they did. Here's where I'm headed with this. Sometimes we in this field, anything that's a change, I began with that disease called change that we need to get over. They're automatically the enemy. What can we learn from Warby Parker and others? What can we learn and use to our best interest to help all opticians do better? Does that make any sense? Thank you. Here's an example of pest. There's all kinds of factors and the social factor. This came from my own community. There's extended families moving into homes of younger families. In North Carolina, we're really growing. And we've got a lot of older family members now that are moving down with their, we have a large military base, the largest, Fort Bragg, it was called until just recently, it's now Fort Liberty. A lot of older folks now are moving down from the cold country to North Carolina to be with their folks. So what is the impact on the organizations that are in healthcare and optical industry? There's consumer demand. We got to reach out and touch them. So how are we going to keep up with it? Membership of the Chamber of Commerce tells you how you go about doing that, but you've got to keep up with those kind of things. And you can, during your strategic planning process, using pest analysis can help you make determinations. Now, look, as Donna said earlier, I used to travel a lot. There were some years that I would do 35 or 40 weekends on the road lecturing somewhere. Man, I bet I'll never forget my maple syrup in Vermont. But I always pick up a book in the airport. I read a lot. And one that really struck home with me, I got 1998. And yes, I still use it every day. Very pertinent to this presentation. Coyle's, his book is called Millennial Management. So there are 10 new rules. First, change the rule. Fix it. How are you going to do things different? How are you going to solve problems that we haven't faced before? The second, strategic foresight. Who are you going to serve down the road? What clients do we need to attract? What competencies do we need to serve them? And what shape do we need to take in the future to meet the needs of this patient population? Innovation. Now look, there's all kind of innovation. Do we use it to our best benefit sometimes? Think about that a little bit. An example. I will never forget speaking in, I'm telling on myself, Donna, called Opti-Fair long before it was called Vision Expo. And they opened the first precision lens practice. Now, does anyone remember why they changed it to just lens crafters? Anybody? It said glasses in an hour. Well, they're in the middle of Manhattan. There's a bunch of Wall Street lawyers. Some guy came in there with a minus 750 with a 2-cylinder or something, and wore his glasses in an hour, and he didn't get them. He sued them. And E. Dean Butler tells that story. Dean is in England now. He's on my LinkedIn page. Sent me a note today. Good luck tonight. I told him I was going to tell the story. Lens crafters changed the way we deliver eyeglasses in America. Did it stay? Eric, what was the first thing that you heard when the lens crafters is coming out? 1 hour glasses got in the lab in the store. What did you hear around? Were you around in those days?
I mean, I'm aware of it. The ongoing joke, at least for a while, was about right in about an hour.
Yep. That was a joke, but I'm gonna tell you now, there were people scared to death that we were all gonna close because lens crafters were gonna take all the business. The same thing happened when Bausch & Lomb came out with their first soft contact lens. That was 1973. The things didn't fit 10 people. I mean, we didn't understand as much about soft contact lenses as we do today. Everybody, and we've had a whole meeting. Oh my God, we're going out of business. They're going to be able to put that little soft plastic in. Nobody's going to wear glasses anymore. What did we do to fix that?
Focused on quality.
Quality and what else?
Care and customer service.
Remember, we also came out, Barton LeVoy from New York City. Anybody remember Barton? Had a company called Tura. He made glasses beautiful. Calvin Klein, everybody. We made them fashion objects. And there was a guy named Ralph Drew from England. Anybody remember him? Ralph Drew was one of the finest public speakers I ever heard in my life, and I thought he was wonderful. But he told us to get rid of the white coat. We're going to be salespeople. And that was against my grain so bad. I did not appreciate it. But a lot of people changed. Here's my point. We have to innovate and be better. How are you going to do it? I got a local physician in my community. While we have 500,000 people in my metro, we have also 100,000 of those people that have no health insurance, which is not uncommon. I've got a local physician now going out and making house calls and charging them whatever they can pay, and he's seeing all the patients he can. He's close to retirement, and he's doing it as a public servant. Innovation. That's the third rule. Think about it. How are you going to do it? We're not going to talk. We're going to move on. Timing. When you come up with a concept that you think is important, you got to be able to predict the appropriate time. Who invented the telephone?
Bell.
Alexander Graham Bell. But you know, there was a guy down the street that months before had one ahead of him. Who went to the market first and proved it to work? Alexander Graham Bell. Look, timing can't be predicted accurately, but an educated guess is better than watching someone else succeed. Study your market, innovate, and time it right. When you think it's the time, then move with speed. Implement quickly. We can do that better than some of the larger organizations. We can turn on a dime in small opticians. Mass customization. That's a very common term today. Wes Youngblood, Back in the day, how many bridge sizes did we get for a Cambridge or a Corsair?
I couldn't possibly tell you, but I can tell you how many bridge sizes we had for Army glasses.
Birth control glasses, how many?
Oh yeah. See, they had a 20, 22, 24, 26.
Amen. They
And
came,
for the ladies, we had 18, 20, 22, and 24.
well, the point is that back in the day, you used to have so many stock keeping units. I'm the only one here old enough to know what a Cambridge or Corsair was. It was a gold filled frame that you could buy for about $16, and we sold them for 32, and they were really sharp. The the the, the Corsair was kind of a goggle shape. It was built around the B&L Wayfarer, but they had all kind of different temple sizes, different temple lengths. Nowadays, how many temple sizes do you usually see? One.
One.
Nowadays, too, when contact lenses first came out, does anyone remember what a Bausch and Lomb soft lens cost? They came in bottles. $16 per lens. Now you can buy them cheaper than that for a box. Today we have astigmatic disposable soft lenses, one size temples, mass customization. How are you going to do it with less stock keeping units? Re-engineering. This is a term we're going to talk about again before we finish. Shifting the competencies. How do we do things differently? When re-engineering first came out, it was a Northeastern union. The only way you could fire somebody from the union was to do away with their job. And re-engineering became the bad term. When we talk about that, it doesn't just mean reducing staff. I'm talking about refocused responsibilities and functions. We've got more diversity today. We've got the plan. That's got to be part of our strategic plan. We've got cultural, gender, other, age. That's one of the hardest ones to deal with. Empowerment. That's a wonderful term in my view. If you're going to lead your organization, Kim, you and who else? Have we lost somebody? Looks like, but Wendy, you two guys, when you're getting your organization developed, make sure you lead. And we're going to talk, I believe it's next month, right, about leadership and management. Leading and managing are two different things. One of the key things that you can do is in your organization is to encourage intellectual energy and commitment by listening and allowing people to learn. Now, if you're working in the office, that turns around too, because if you're an effective manager today, you got to empower your people. They're going to learn by failure. There are other ways to learn, but you're going to learn by failure in a lot of cases. Now, I used to freak out. If one of my staff did something wrong, I started very young, and I'll never forget it. Wes, you'll find this funny. I had a slab off come in, and they were glass in those days. It was the mid-70s. Man, and it took a long time. Kim, you know what a slab off is? Good girl. We used to have to hand rock those in the optician school. I had to do them, and it took hours and hours to get that line straight. Well, I had a rookie on my edger. That thing came in. He treated it like any other lens. He waited 3 weeks fussing at me. He broke the lens in 5 minutes. I had a fit. Well, I chewed on that boy. I finally said, "Have mercy. You're going to kill this young man. Just let the guy go." I apologized to him later, but it was too late. You got to let them learn by failure. Now, it makes it bad sometimes, but you got to be able to do that. When you're putting your organization together, give your vice presidents, give your treasurer, give people that are with you, empower them to make decisions within certain parameters, and then move with it. We got to be learning organizations. When you're putting your organization together, we got to think systematically. We got to think team learning and sharing vision. It's across the board. Have you ever been to a continuing ed thing and brought back something to your office that helped everybody? Same thing can happen in your organization. Now, the principles of management we talked about, prepare for the changes. It's inevitable, guys. Let's look at planning and change, and then we'll wrap it up. Opticianry is evolving. You agree? And it's taking its own direction right now. I hope that's a fair statement. What direction do we want it to take? And what skills must you have, and I have, and all of us, to be successful in the future? What benefits do we offer a patient, a customer, a widget, whatever you call those people that come into your offices? What benefits do we offer versus going down the street with Dr. Jones, the optometrist? What benefit? And these are questions not to answer, these are just things to think about. Can we improve delivery methods to meet patient needs and demands? Think about it. There's concerns and strategies for success that relate to that. There's competition for patients today. Mergers are happening. HIP, a third party, clinical pathways. There's more knowledgeable patients. I mean, anybody, I have a good friend who's in the music business. I've known him for many years, and he called me, I got to have cataract surgery. Do I want this lens or that lens? What'd your doctor tell you? Well, I just wanted you to tell me. They look it up. WebMD has been a blessing and a curse. We got to be prepared, and we got to make sure we know what we're talking about when they come in. There's shifts in the basis of competition, price and volume, quality and speed. Now, back for a while, everybody wanted to move to high end. I'm going to be the high end deal. Well, look, in my rural part of North Carolina, there isn't any high end. You go broke. There are new rules all across, but that shifts in the basis of competition important when you think about it. Michael Porter. Anyone ever heard of Dr. Porter? Nope. 1980, he wrote Competitive Strategy, Techniques for Analyzing Industries and Competitors. Now, he came up with 3 generic strategies for competition: cost leadership, differentiation, and focus. And how am I doing on time? I'm okay, right?
I've got all night.
Okay, I'm fine. I got 15 minutes, I think, on the clock. There are entry barriers. Look, we're not going to compete. If you're an independent optician, you're not going to compete on price with Walmart. That shouldn't be your area. Buying power. Man, large buyers have less power to negotiate because of few alternatives. The threats of substitutes. Can we be substituted? Think about it.
Warby Parker's doing it somewhat.
We find that only 22 states have a license in this country. And they finally have done a study. I've been trying to get ABO and NCLE or whoever to do one for years to show that people with some background and training, certification, do it better. And the ABO study has shown that we do. Has it been widely published? How many of you read it? Not a one. Me. Me and Wes, maybe.
I haven't seen it, but I'd love to.
Well, it's out there. It's been published apparently.
Do you know where it's at?
No, the ABO office hasn't. You know how that goes. So, what are you going to do? How are you going? You're not going to cost lead. Can you differentiate? Eric mentioned it earlier. Eric, how do you differentiate?
Well, you can address your specific market, like you talked about. Everyone wants to go high end, except you know how that's going to fail in a lower income community. So you look into what the cultural influences are that are specific to your community that you're, and then you address those individual needs and wants. And
Absolutely perfect. Thank you very much. And then focus. Are you going to focus on a specific need? Who is it? There's a young woman in Arizona. Donna, you may remember her name. She does nothing but pediatrics. She's an optician. Anybody? I can't remember her name. I read an article on her some months back, and I thought to myself, how in the world is it? But she lives in an area with a high birth rate, and that's what she does, and that's really focus. So differentiation and focus can be related. Cost leadership is not always the way we're going to succeed. Porter, remember the source of competitive advantage here. Those things are important. Michael Porter wrote a book, and countless books over the years about this. And when you're setting your organization apart, when you're setting your office apart, daggone it, stand out from the pack. Don't try to undercut. You're not going to do it. 10 new rules, guys, are changing. Foresight, innovation, timing, speed, mass customization, re-engineering, diversity, empowerment, and learning as an organization. For you guys that are starting out, this is important. This is important. Reinventing their profession. Do we need to change as opticians? Or are we okay the way we are? I can't tell you. I know what I think, but my opinion doesn't count here. And quite frankly, when you're leading your organizations, yours don't either. You want to help institute the ideas. So leaders don't tell people how to do things. They present ideas and people come together and go out and do it. Once you recognize there's a need to change, then you go out with the appropriate strategy. You got to measure its success and then celebrate small steps. Guys, change is coming. Whether we're ready or not, get ready and succeed. How to be, not how to do, guys. Stay close to the playing field. Kim, Wendy, you guys that are starting these new organizations, stay close to the playing field. That means stay in touch and communicate effectively and efficiently with your teams. Wes, you and Eric have got a set. I mean, you've been out there a long time. Both your organizations are solid. Stay on the ground with it. Focus. What's your mission? What's your vision for the future? And remember those things. Let's look at it, re-engineering. We're just about to wrap up. When we talk about re-engineering, and I talk about re-engineering the profession of opticianry, we got to be vision driven. We got to set stretch goals initially. Where can we be down the road? We got to focus on the costs. We got to develop a plan, benchmark, invest in information technology, and we got to have trust among ourselves. When you're re-engineering your organization, if you got people that are working for you, Coral said, promise no layoffs if we make these changes. Well, we're not laying anybody off. But use incentives and share the values across your organizations. Integration is important. Where are you in your marketplace? How many of you know your position in the market, where you live, where your offices are, where you work for a corporate? Wes is the market into himself for the whole U.S. Army. But Wendy, Kim, Eric, you guys, Donna, where are you in the market food chain? Are you the top dog? You at the bottom of the pile? You in the middle of the pile? Which way you need to climb? You got
I'm at the top, my friend.
good girl. You go ahead and stay there, and you got to understand how to integrate things. Now, I talked earlier about doing all kinds of things. Think about this for a minute. Clinical specialists are now changing to administration. In my world of healthcare, hospitals are now in individual delivery networks or independent delivery services. Large organizational management spends less time in the E-suite, and they're moving out. They're doing managed care stuff. What does that mean for a small team like us? 80% of our time as future managers and leaders will be spent on managing patient care. That we're not going to sit in our office and tell the staff what to do. We're going to have to participate. MDs and ODs have become businessmen, but they need a team to help them survive. I have a good friend who's an ophthalmologist. Bless his heart, he's lost as a church now. He's just going out on his own. He is scared to death. And I'm setting up his office for him, and I'm trying to get him to differentiate. And he's grown his hair out long. I call him my hippie eye doc, and I told him, get a haircut, boy, a picture. What are you going to do to work with your team? And then we'll get his team in place. We're going to train them. Look, nursing is a prime example I use to compare us to all the time. What did nursing do 25 years ago that's important? Anyone? Most of the time back in the day, my wife, by the way, we just had, Donna, we had 50 years of marriage this past weekend. She's had a burden to bear. Nursing back in the day, nobody understood what nurses did. They emptied bedpans and they moved patients from place to place. Nowadays, that's completely different. Nursing delivers 80% of the care in a hospital setting. They become primary care providers. Advanced practice nurses, nurse practitioners, they help maintain clinical efficiency, manage chronic patients, case management, health promotion, prevention. Nurses. Now, what does that mean for opticians? We're changing. The new paradigm for us, we don't know. We haven't established it yet. What are we going to do to motivate future workers and get them the right people that see this field as a professional endeavor? People are worried about survival, relatedness, pleasure, information, mastery, play, dignity, and meaning. We have to motivate them differently, particularly these millennials. Traits necessary for our future: vision, strategy. The one thing that people want to see more than anything else in a leader is personal integrity. We got to be flexible. We got to be able to change, and we have to be able to assume risks. Now, look, guys, listen to the winds of change. You guys that are running these organizations, this is all important. There's new current technology to boost your practice. You've got to get out and work with your new members and help everyone rise to the top. There's new and better materials today. We've got to take advantage rather than see doom and gloom. You got to be positive toward change, embrace it, and by golly, you'll see positive results. Guys, there's no elevator. I saw this online the other day and I borrowed it. A friend of mine named Dan McNeil, a great public speaker and leadership development. And I said, I want to use that. He said, by all means. Have you ever been involved in an organization that set big goals? Look to the right there. How hard is it for that one individual to get there? Notice that on the left ladder, that guy's getting closer to the top because he took small steps. Your organizations, Kim, Wendy, Eric, Wes, your organizations are going to start slowly. Those smaller steps help us reach those goals. Look, guys, I hope I've given you some food for thought tonight. I've been here an hour with you. I have really enjoyed it. I'm open for questions.
Please feel free to unmute and ask Dr. McDonald anything you want within reason.
All right, this is Jane Summers here. I just wanted to thank Dr. M for taking the time to share his wisdom with us.
It was a pleasure to be here, Jane. Thank you.
I will be sending this video out to everyone after this is over to share with your team. And so you can all help build your state associations based on Dr. McDonald's wisdom. And
Now our next event is what date?
it's next month. I can tell you that for sure. I have to get my calendar up here, Warren.
I have it.
Leadership.
August 14th.
I'm sorry?
August 14th.
All
Thank
right.
you, Wes.
I would
invite you to invite your whole team to come and participate in the leadership one. That'll be very beneficial to all state associations. So I want to thank you for all of your time tonight. Dr. McDonald, thank you very much. I appreciate you, my friend, beyond words. For all you do, for all the opticianry and everything that goes with it. You are fabulous. So we will close for tonight. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you, Warren. Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
Hey, thanks for
you.
putting this together, Donna and Warren, as always. Thanks for the assist.
We're
you.
here to help. We want your state associations to be very productive. So that's the ultimate goal, is we want all strong states and moving forward and building each and every one of you up. That's what the goal is. So you will have this video in your boxes as soon as I get off and it gets through. So thank you for attending. Have a wonderful evening. We'll see you all next month.
Thank you, Donna.
You bet.
All right, bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Good night.